How do we tell the difference between a regular, habitual, conditioned thought of the identity of the ego, and the difference between that and an inspired thought, a thought that is aligned with the truth of our being, a thought that when we follow it will lead to greater well-being, greater happiness, greater harmony, will align with the purpose, our soul purpose. So this question explores the idea that there's a difference, if you like, in the nature of thought, that there is habitual thought that repeats and repeats and repeats, and the thoughts look real, and these thoughts are habitually followed, and the outcome of following these repetitive thoughts is a repetitive outcome. And that these thoughts can be noticed as different from thoughts that are free of habit and conditioning, thoughts that are directly in alignment with understanding our true nature, that what we are, the truth of our being is that what we are is peace. What we are is love. What we are is whole, is complete. The truth of our being is an experience of clarity and a flow of infinite potential. And the idea here is that when we are in touch with inspired thoughts that arise from understanding what we really are, then our life will go better. But what happens when we experience an inspired thought, or we think we've experienced an inspired thought, and we follow it, and things don't get better? They don't appear to get better. Does this mean that, you got the inspired thought wrong? You were mistaken? What's going on? Well, consider this, that discerning, the knowing of the difference between a habitual thought and an inspired thought is a learning process. We are absolutely designed to be able to discern the difference in the nature of a thought. And by the time we reach probably 5, 6, 8, 7 as a child, we have been trained out of that natural discerning capacity predominantly, because we've adopted the prevalent beliefs of society, culture, family, religion, etc. So to go on a journey to reclaim the capacity to not only be open to inspired thoughts, but to be able to discern the inspired thoughts from the noise of habitual thoughts, this is in itself a learning, a discovery process. Now, sometimes inspired thoughts are discerned because the experience of the thought is somehow energizing, feels expansive energetically. And yet, just as often, if not more so, consider that inspired thoughts are very soft, very quiet, very ordinary even. The Quakers have an expression pointing to the existence of an inspired thought. And they describe these thoughts as a still, small voice within. Small, still, barely noticeable. And if you think about it, some of the most inspired projects of a huge nature start with one. They all start with one simple step, one simple recognition, one simple acceptance of an idea. A marathon, a heroic trek up a mountain starts with one step. So it's worth spending some time and pausing if there's an experience of an expansive, energizing thought that could be an inspired thought. And at the same time, these inspired thoughts that are expansive act like candy for the ego mind, for the conditioned mind. The ego attaches all sorts of expectations, gets very excited about what's going to happen on the other side of the inspired thought, at the end of the thought being set in motion. The ego goes into, oh, this is the solution. This is going to deliver me my perfect job, my perfect partner. It's going to give me the perfect fix or show me how to heal my body. This is the ego hijacking what could potentially be an authentic inspired thought. And when the inspired thought is hijacked in this way by the ego, then the actions that happen are feeding and fueling the ego needs and ego wants, as opposed to supporting the revelation of the truth of our being. So when there's a distortion by the ego, the so-called outcome is bound to be disappointing. So it can appear that the inspired thought is not delivering what you want. But even here, when there's a disappointment on the other side of taking action from an inspired thought, this disappointment moment is the inspired thought working. The so-called disappointing outcome is simply an invitation to learn and continue learning about how to discern an inspired thought and how to stabilize in that alignment of the expansion and the energy of an inspired thought without the ego entering in and taking ownership of the inspired thought. And remember that at the end of the day, inspired thoughts, there is only one destination. There's only one source of an inspired thought and one destination, which is to reveal more and more deeply the truth of our being. That what we are is peace, what we are is fulfilled, what we are is whole, what we are is peace, what we are is happiness. And when we allow this single destination to be received and have it be integrated as an experience, an embodied experience, then there is no wrong outcome. If there is not a the perfect partner at the end of the inspired thought, if there is not the perfect job at the end of an inspired thought. And we keep going and learning how to stabilize in the source and follow through of an inspired thought. The truth of our being, that what we are is peace, what we are is complete, what we are is love, will be revealed.